Welcome back to another Wednesday on the Pagan Perspective. Thank you so much for being here with me in the wonderful rainy garden. I'm your Wednesday host, Yucca, and this week we are talking about connecting, or maybe not so much, with the different Sabbats or holidays of the Wheel of the Year. So the full topic is in the description below, but the basic gist of it is, are there specific Sabbats or holidays that we just don't connect with, or we sort of resist for whatever reason? And if that's the case, do we skip them? Do we push through and make ourselves do them anyways? And if we do that, are there any techniques that we have for helping to connect with those? So for me, the Wheel of the Year is very, very central. It's always been important. The cycle of the seasons has always been important for me. And in recent years, as a pagan family, we have decided to really center our practice on the Wheel of the Year. So for us, it's very important to be really present with the seasons and the shifting of the seasons, that change, that cycle, that continuation, moving from one to the next. And we focus more strongly on the seasons themselves, and the holidays are the high points, the midpoints of those seasons. So a lot of people celebrate it as that season, that holiday starts the season. So for instance, Yule, or the winter solstice, starts winter. Well, for us, it's the center of that. Or right now, we're in second autumn, and second autumn Samhain is the high point, not the start of the season for us. I actually did a much more in-depth video on my personal channel. I'll go ahead and put that in the cards and in the description below if you're interested in checking that out. That talks about what each of the seasons and holidays means to us in terms of what's going on in the land that we're part of, as well as what the symbology is and what things we're focusing and really honoring during that time period. So I'm not going to take up the space in this video for that, but if you are interested, go ahead and click on that and check it out. So going back to the question about, are there ones that we don't connect with? Well, there are certain practices that are common practices or common interpretations of the holidays that I certainly don't connect with and don't view the holiday that way. But what we have done is we have matched the holidays to fit the season and fits what is happening in our climate, which actually fits pretty well with the traditional Northern European. We're in northern New Mexico, but in terms of kind of what's happening season-wise, in terms of the harvests, pretty much line up. I mean, by about now, this is the end of the harvest. We've been getting frosts. All my warm weather crops are gone, but I'm getting some mushroom flushes coming through, and some of the brassicas and cooler weather things are still doing pretty well. So we've got our last harvest happening. So anyways, those match up. But there are things like that the viewer mentioned, sort of the fertility stuff of Beltane and kind of having to do with the sexuality of it. That's not an element that we really focus on, because I don't see the the human fertility aspect. When I look at it, it doesn't make sense to me to do it in May, because that doesn't line up with humans reproductive, our breeding season, basically. So what I mean by that is, if you were to take everyone's birthdays and you were to go ahead and plot them on a graph, one might expect that it would be pretty even across, but that's not the case. Depending on where you are, and so I'll just talk about the northern hemisphere, and it's reversed in the southern. But what we actually see is that there's a nice little bump. And that bump is right in the end of summer, beginning of autumn, in this time, in the beginning of harvest, right? Where there's lots of food and resources. And that's when there's this bump that's baby season, they call it at the hospital. So it is more common to have a birthday that time of year than it is other times of year. So it's not a majority, but it's plurality. So if you count back to conception, then we also have a season that is more common for people to be conceived during. And that's actually now, going into the cold between Samhain and the solstice or Yule. And so for me, those are the times of year that I would associate with human reproductive sexuality. Around Beltane, I guess if one did get pregnant during the human breeding season, if we call it that, you'd be showing around Beltane, right? So for us, we don't look at it that. We don't think of it as a human reproductive holiday. It's more about what is happening in the land. And we are celebrating and honoring the plants that are coming up, the crops. And that cycle is what we're focusing on. So we find what works for us and celebrate that and try and honor that and be present with that. And then if there's a lot of things about different holidays, about different gods and different practices, and depending on where the name of that holiday came from, that since we aren't theists, we just don't connect with that. So we focus again on the part that is important to us. So in terms of do we celebrate them anyways or skip them, well, we just make the holiday about what is important to us. So we don't skip it, we embrace it. And I suppose that is the answer to the third one is, what way have we found to sort of embrace or push through that, is to create meaning, to make the holidays work for us. So yeah, I was really excited for this topic to see it come up, and I'm also pumped that it got to be such a beautiful, this is really unusual weather for us here. We only get 12 inches of rain a year, and we've gotten an inch of it in the last 24 hours. So I've been waiting all day for a break to be able to actually film, and finally got it. And so it just is kind of like a feeling that epitomizes fall and second autumn. So I was glad to get to share that with you. And I will be back in December, so I will not see you lovely folks until then, because I am going to be taking November off to add another little pagan to the world. I am 39 weeks now, so any day that they'd like to arrive, that would be fantastic. And Danny and Angela will be covering in the meantime, so thank you in advance to them, and I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts in the comments section. And again, until December, take care and have a blessed holiday if you celebrate Samhain.